What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with a very special NFL video. This is my top 100 NFL players entering the 2019 season. My ranking of the very best players in football today. Before I give you my top 100 list, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Do you love the list? Do you hate the list? Are there players that are not on this list that you think deserve to be on it? This is my ranking of the top 100 players in the NFL going into 2019. Kicking off the top 100 players of 2019, I have one of the more underrated edge players in football entering the 2019 season. There was a reason why the Buffalo Bills were the number 2 defense in yards allowed in 2018, and a big reason was because Jerry Hughes was one of the most disruptive football players in the entire NFL. Every single time you watch the Buffalo Bills, Jerry Hughes is in the face of the quarterback. Yes, he only had 7 sacks, but he produced pressure. He actually was in the top 5 in the entire NFL in pressures produced in 2018, having the 3rd highest percentage, only behind Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald. Jerry Hughes is a leader and the best edge rusher on one of the best defenses in football going into 2019. At number 99, the first rookie on the top 100 and the first Dallas Cowboy, Leighton Vander Esch, linebacker of the Dallas Cowboys, absolutely tore up the NFL when he had his opportunity in 2018 and elevated the Dallas Cowboys defense from a good unit to one of the best units in football. And I am so excited to see where Vander Esch's career goes, because this guy has the potential to be a Hall of Fame caliber linebacker, an all-pro caliber linebacker for many seasons to come. He just has that it factor at the linebacker position. He's very long, very big. He can cover up a lot of space. He's very instinctive at the linebacker position, a great, phenomenal tackler, and seems to be a great dude and a phenomenal leader as well. Leighton Vander Esch is already one of the best linebackers in football, and in year number 2, he's only going to gain more experience and elevate his game to the very next level. At number 98 on the top 100 is the first of 3 defensive backs on the LA Chargers. Desmond King was a name that a lot of people kind of knew as an up-and-coming corner, but nobody really expected him to become an all-pro at such a young age. Desmond King is a unique player. Not only is he an all-pro at the corner position as one of the best, if not the best slot corner in football, but also a punt returner with special abilities in open space. And he uses that special ability as a punt returner, his quickness, his pure speed, to cover the quickest football players in the NFL. It doesn't really matter whether it's man or zone coverage. Desmond King is a fearless football player. You see that in his tackling ability as well. Desmond King is a future star of the NFL, already becoming an all-pro player in 2018. Chargers fans should be excited about having the best slot corner in football going into 2019. At number 97 on the top 100, I have the brother of J.J. Watt, and that's been his story throughout the course of his career so far. T.J. Watt has kind of overcome all odds so far in his NFL career. People were saying just last season that the only reason he was drafted in the first round was because his name was Watt, because he was J.J. Watt's brother. But T.J. Watt put together a season and a half in 2018 with 13 sacks, already becoming the best Pittsburgh Steelers defensive player. TJ Watt, what I love about his game is that he'll do absolutely anything. This guy has a huge heart. This guy's extremely hardworking, and he's so versatile, whether that's as a pass rusher, as a run defender, or even dropping into coverage. TJ Watt is a problem, and you need to be aware of him on every single play. Watt's still a very young player and can really grow into his role as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Already with 13 sacks in his second season, we'll see where he can go from here. But TJ Watt is one of my favorite edge defenders going into 2019 that I'm going to be keeping my eye on. At number 96, I have what seems to be everybody's favorite young quarterback in football, Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, yes, only at number 96 here, but I expect him to really rise on this list after this next season. Baker Mayfield has special qualities that you look for in a franchise quarterback. He has extreme confidence in his abilities. He is a very good leader. He is vocal and will tell you how it is. And from an on-field perspective, he has great touch, great accuracy, enough mobility to move outside the pocket and deliver a football on the run, and just a ton of swagger. Baker Mayfield, I believe, is going to grow this season and really rise as one of the elite quarterbacks in football alongside Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry as his wide receivers. I expect Baker Mayfield to take the Browns to the playoffs, but after such an amazing rookie season, the sky's the limit for Baker Mayfield. At number 95, I have the second Dallas Cowboy already on this top 100, and that is cornerback Byron Jones. This Dallas Cowboys defense was good in 2018, and I expect it to be great in 2019 because not only do they have a young stud linebacker like Leighton Vander Esch, but they legitimately have a shutdown corner, a top 15, top 10 corner in football in Byron Jones. Byron Jones is a unique corner, a unique matchup for any wide receiver in football. He is so long, so tall, and has such great leaping ability that it's pretty much impossible to throw a jump ball against this guy because he's going to be able to jump up, and if he can see it, he can knock it down. And that's why Byron Jones was at the top of the league, near the top of the league in passes defended in 2018. He was a Pro Bowl player in 2018, and I expect that to only improve in 2019 under great coaching in Chris Richard. I believe Byron Jones is going to continue to develop as a corner, and it's kind of scary that this guy's barely even played as a corner, but he's already one of the elite ones in the NFL. A very, very good zone cover corner that I think, again, is only going to get better with time. Good players rack up statistics, but great players, their presence is felt when they're not on the football field. At number 94, I have linebacker of the Atlanta Falcons, DEION Jones. And DEION Jones was one of those players in 2018. Missed a lot of time out with injury, but he's just too good to leave off this list. DEION Jones entering 2019's one of the best middle linebackers in football, and when he was not on the field, this defense really did suffer in the middle of their defense, needing a leader in the middle of their defense, but also a very fast, awesome cover linebacker who's one of the best in the entire game. And the thing about DEION Jones that I would say is really he is the prototypical modern NFL linebacker. You want your linebackers today to be fast, to be great tacklers, to be tough, to be fierce and ferocious, but you also need them to be great in coverage. You need them to have great side-to-side ability, and DEION Jones can do all of that and more. And he's a super athlete at this linebacker position, and I think he's going to continue to grow because, again, he's still a very young player. DEION Jones of the Atlanta Falcons may not have played a ton in 2018, but in 2019, he'll show that his presence is a big deal. It's rare that an NFL player in today's climate is able to last their entire career with one team. But Joe Staley has remained one of the most consistent tackles in football over the course of his career since being drafted in 2007, and he's probably going to play his entire career as a San Francisco 49er. Joe Staley, again in 2018, was consistent. One of the best tackles in football. 3-time second-team All-Pro, a 7-time Pro Bowler. Joe Staley, again, consistent is the word. He is a true pro, a true great left tackle, arguably a Hall of Fame caliber player, and he continues to play at the highest level at his position. I'm just hopeful that the 49ers are actually a good team in 2019 so that Joe Staley can once again have a chance at the playoffs. At number 92, I have the heart and soul of the Patriots secondary, and you guys know that I love the Patriots secondary. It's probably the best in football, and there is a big reason standing at free safety. Devin McCourty is one of the more underappreciated players of his era. He is such a Patriot. He doesn't talk much, but he is great on and off the football field, a leader of this secondary, and he can basically do whatever Bill Belichick wants him to do. He started off as a corner back in 2010, transformed into a free safety, has played a little bit of time at strong safety in the box on certain plays, can play slot corner if you need him to, can match speed with Tyreek Hill if you need him to, he can cover a tight end if you want him to, or a running back. Devin McCourty can play man, he can play zone, he doesn't give up the big play, he's one of the more intelligent defensive backs in football today, and he continues to play at a very high level. He's one of these safeties that doesn't rack up a ton of interceptions, but he is that player that's the last line of defense for the Patriots secondary. The Patriots, more than most teams, really don't want to give up the big play as a defense. And Devin McCourty is the reason why they're always amongst the top in the NFL in not giving up that big play. He's so rangy, he's so smart, and he does so much for the Patriots. Over the past season or so, I've really emphasized the fact that I really don't believe there are many linebackers in the game that are chess players like they used to have in the NFL. There's not many Brian Urlachers or Ray Lewises around in the NFL today. But one linebacker that I do believe is a true leader and a true, very intelligent middle linebacker who can go toe-to-toe with just about any quarterback in football is CJ Mosley, now of the New York Jets. CJ Mosley is here on the top 100, mostly due to the fact that he is going to be a huge loss for the Baltimore Ravens. He was their leader. He was not only the guy that was vocal, but also the brain on the field behind the Ravens defense, setting the Ravens defense up in the right play, going toe-to-toe with the opposing quarterback. And yes, CJ Mosley's not the freak of the athlete that some of these linebackers are in football. He's a little bit bigger. He is a very good tackler, but he's just so smart. And he's always in the right place, and he's always putting his players around him in the right place. And there's something to be said still in 2019 about a middle linebacker that can lead your defense and set the tone for one side of the football. CJ Mosley still does that, and he does that at an elite level. That's why he's here on the top 100. The Green Bay Packers aren't exactly known for their fierce defense. They've been one of the worst defenses in football for the past few seasons. But one player that has really stood out on that side of the football for Green Bay is Kenny Clark, their nose tackle, 300-pounder, only 13 games in 2018. He had 6 sacks. He is a force at the nose tackle position, not only against the run, but dictating and pass rushing. And Kenny Clark is going to continue to be. At only 23 years of age, he could be one of the best defensive linemen or defensive players in general in all of football. And if the Packers are going to make that jump back to the playoffs in 2019, Kenny Clark is going to have to be a huge part of that success. Clark is just a monstrous human being, an animal along the defensive line that has an all-around game already as such a young player. Truly one of the up-and-coming defensive linemen in football. You know you're pretty good in the NFL when you constantly dominate one area of football. And here in the top 100, I have Mr. Snacks Harrison, who's basically made his name off of stopping the run. Damon Harrison going from the Jets to the Lions or even from the Giants, it doesn't really matter where he plays. He's going to be one of, if not the best run defender in football season after season after season. And sure, run defenders aren't looked at the way that pass rushers are, but to me, when you can dominate one part of football the way that Damon Harrison does, it speaks to how amazing this player is. And for a nose tackle to put up this number of tackles is absolutely insane. He is actually criminally underrated because he is a run defender. He's not a player that's going to put up a ton of sacks, and people don't really look at that the same way. They don't pay these players the same, and fans don't look at them because they don't see the stats. But he can change a game because he constantly puts an offense in bad down situations, bad down and distances. And Damon Harrison is going to continue to dominate, now entering his 30s in Detroit. I think he's going to have another great season in 2019. At number 88 on the top 100, I have one of the more consistent players at an inconsistent position. The cornerback position is probably the hardest to stay consistent at on defense in the NFL in 2019. And Casey Hayward kind of does the impossible and stays consistent. And yeah, he wasn't one of the top 5 corners in football in 2018, but he was certainly around the top 10. And he allows Desmond King to be that number 2, to be that slot corner. And Casey Hayward has been a slot corner in his past. He plays a little bit outside, he plays a little bit inside, and Casey Hayward has a lot of versatility for the corner position that you don't often see from a top tier guy. He can play zone, he can play man. He's shown that he can lead the NFL near the top in interceptions a lot of years because his ball skills are so good. Casey Hayward is just a super consistent player at a position that is built not to be consistent in the NFL today. At number 87, I have Joe Mixon, a running back that was thought of coming out of the draft as kind of an off-the-field issue. We didn't know how it was going to transfer into the NFL, but nobody really doubted his talent. And Joe Mixon is one of those running backs who kind of closely compared to Le'Veon Bell coming out. He has the skill set, the patience as a runner, and the speed to be a great runner on the ground, but also a very good receiver, very soft hands. And I think he's going to be the Cincinnati Bengals' number 1 weapon in the 2019 NFL season. There were only 8 running backs who made this top 100 list, and Joe Mixon is the first on the list because of his dual threat skill set. He played behind a bad offensive line, but it didn't really matter. He had his starting quarterback go out, and it didn't really matter. He is just a consistent force, a very talented player, and his career should really shape up in the 2019 season. At number 86, I have Dee Ford. Dee Ford is kind of getting a little bit disrespected from the NFL community after being traded by the Kansas City Chiefs to the San Francisco 49ers. It's almost like people forgot how amazing he was for the Chiefs last season, how he led the Chiefs all the way to being one of the best pass rushing teams in all of football, how that allowed the Kansas City Chiefs offense to produce and play, and how it ultimately allowed the Chiefs to continue to win football games in the regular season by shutting down opponents, by stripping the football from quarterbacks. Dee Ford is a playmaker, and I understand he's been inconsistent over the course of his career, but he's shown moments of being absolutely great. And at the very least, he's one of the best pure pass rushers in the game. He doesn't rank as high as some other people because of that inconsistency, because he's more of a one-dimensional player. But that one dimension is very elite, and he just has a nose for the ability to strip the football, for the ability to get after the quarterback, disrupt rhythm, and yes, that offside happened, but you can't do anything but move forward. I think he's going to be an awesome piece to the San Francisco 49ers defense and be, again, one of the best pass rushers in 2019. At number 85 on the top 100, I have the Philadelphia Eagles franchise quarterback Carson Wentz. And really, Carson Wentz in a healthy season would be a lot higher on this list, but because we don't quite know how he's going to be coming off the injury, and also the fact that he did miss quite a few games during 2018, he's a little bit lower than I would like to rank him. But overall, I think Carson Wentz has kind of gotten a lot of heat, a lot of hate for things that aren't necessarily his fault, like being injured. He was probably going to be the MVP of the 2017 season, and he was going to go on to lead the Philadelphia Eagles to a Super Bowl victory that season against the New England Patriots. It just didn't end up happening for him. He got injured. He had a fantastic season. He had 33 touchdowns. He only had 7 picks, and he was going to win that MVP award. And then this past season, I think people actually overlooked what Carson Wentz was able to do, even coming off of that ACL injury. Yes, he was 5-6, and yes, the Philadelphia Eagles were struggling, but it wasn't because of Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz actually had a better passer rating than he did the season previous. He had a higher completion percentage than he did the year previous, and he was on the same pace for touchdowns. So Carson Wentz was having a very good year, all things considered. Going into 2019, they add some weapons around him like Deshaun Jackson, who's back as a Philadelphia Eagle. I absolutely love Carson Wentz going into the season. I think he might have his best season yet. I'm just hopeful he can stay on the field and he can stay healthy, but Carson Wentz is definitely one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL today. From the Philadelphia Eagles to their biggest rival, the Dallas Cowboys, at number 84, I have Tyron Smith, the left tackle of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyron Smith has been a model of consistency when he's been able to find the field and stay on it. That's the issue with Tyron Smith, health. Overall, when Tyron Smith is on the field, the Dallas Cowboys are a dominant offensive line, an even better offense, and really he is one of, if not the best left tackle in football when he's able to be healthy and at 100%. And in seasons past, Tyron Smith was the #1 tackle in the NFL. Personally, I don't find him to be that anymore, but I still do feel like he is a top 100 player. I still do feel like he's one of the elite tackles in the NFL. But a lot of injuries have kind of hurt him as a player. Stay consistent. And overall, Tyron Smith is just a wall at left tackle. Still a great player. But again, those injuries have kind of held him back from being the Hall of Fame caliber talent that he has been at certain points throughout his awesome career. At number 83, perhaps the most underrated cornerback in the NFL, Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. I think Howard already has established himself as a shutdown man-to-man cover corner in the NFL, but going into this season, being that there's been a change at head coach, Brian Flores has been brought into the mix as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. This is even going to maximize the skill set of Xavier Howard even more so going into the 2019 NFL season. Howard was an interception magnet last season, 7 interceptions, which I think tied for the NFL lead, only 12 games. So Xavier Howard, of course, has the ball skills, but he has the man-to-man ability to press at the line, to stay with the receiver. He has good speed, good enough height to stick with a taller receiver, good enough quickness to stick with a smaller receiver, and he has certain games on certain weeks where he shuts down the opposing receiver, and you could point to him as the best corner in football. And that, to me, is a top 100 player and a true sign of an up-and-coming all-pro caliber talent at the cornerback position. That is Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. Don't worry, Cowboys fans. I'm getting right back to your players on this list. At number 82, I have Jaylon Smith, to me, one of the best middle linebackers in the game already. Going into his third season in 2019, Jaylon Smith really showed that he was able to progress from the ACL, progress back from the knee injury that he sustained in college. His first season was pretty good, but then in 2018, he was really able to explode alongside the other breakout, Leighton Vander Esch, and really become one of the best linebackers in the game. And that's really why the Dallas Cowboys have the best duo at this position in the NFL. Jaylon Smith can pretty much do everything that Leighton Vander Esch can do, except he's just a little bit quicker, he's just a little bit faster, and he's just a little bit smarter at this point in his career. He racked up 4 sacks, 121 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles, along with just having a fantastic impact in both pass coverage, run defense. Jaylon Smith is an all-around linebacker that every team is looking for in the NFL today. At number 81, I have who many considered last season to be the best safety in all of football, Harrison Smith. Now, I do believe Harrison Smith did take a slight step back in 2018, but he's still one of the most consistent, best safeties in football year after year, season after season. And going into 2019, I expect no real decline from Harrison Smith in his play. I only expect him to get a little bit better and maybe return to that 2017 form. But still, in a down season for Harrison Smith, he's still ranked amongst the best safeties in football in run defense grade by PFF. Harrison Smith's an all-around very good safety, and it's because he's one of the most intelligent safeties in the game, whether that's in pass coverage, being able to read the eyes of a quarterback and trick him into throwing the ball in a place where he wants him to, or just in run defense and being able to anticipate going over the film study and being able to see a run before it happens. Harrison Smith is going to maintain his level of play in a similar way to Eric Weddle for the Rams, where he's just going to be good for a long time because he's so smart, he understands the game so well, and he is always in the right position. At number 80, I have Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman won the Super Bowl MVP. He won another Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, and he's now on the top 100 players of 2019. Edelman coming off of a suspension. A lot of people didn't know what to expect from him across the NFL, whether he was going to take a step back after the ACL injury or he was going to continue his great level of play. And what happened in 2018 was Edelman had one of his best seasons yet, connecting and becoming Tom Brady's #1 target with consistency, even more so than Rob Gronkowski. As Rob Gronkowski's play dipped off, Julian Edelman continued to raise the bar and raise his level of play in the biggest of games. Edelman is one of the greatest playoff receivers of all time, now belonging second on both the yards and receptions list in playoff history. Edelman is clutch and as tough as they come, and is here at number 80 on the top 100. At number 79 on the top 100, I have another receiver, JUJU Smith-Schuster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 2019 is going to be a big season of proving yourself when it comes to JUJU, because JUJU, you no longer have AB as your #1. But as a #2, JUJU actually outproduced Antonio Brown in the yards category, having over 1,400 yards, a ton of touchdowns, a ton of receptions. JUJU Smith-Schuster, even in a #2 role, has already proven himself to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. And to me, JUJU, where he really is one of the best receivers in the game, is his toughness over the middle, his fearlessness over the middle to catch the football, but also be able to catch it and then break tackles and do things after the catch that a player like JUJU may not seem that he'd be able to do. Like, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he just seems to be able to break away from defenders, create big plays after the catch, and he might not have the same go up and get it type of mentality as Antonio Brown or skill set, but Big Ben will be able to feed this man. He's a bigger target. He's a tough guy. I just hope that his personality doesn't turn into the worst like we saw with AB. At number 78, I have the LA Chargers running back, at least for now, Melvin Gordon. Now, Melvin Gordon may want a new contract, and he may think he deserves it. He definitely does. I don't disagree. Melvin Gordon's a very good running back, deserves to be on this top 100. And really, a lot of people forget that Melvin Gordon was racking up the stats last season. He was actually going toe-to-toe with Todd Gurley for touchdowns, for fantasy points produced. Melvin Gordon's an all-around running back. And for a guy that's kind of as muscular and big as he is, he's actually quite a good pass catcher and quite a good finesse back, and has really good breakaway speed. Again, for being a guy with such great power, and he's really difficult to take down. So he's kind of one of those running backs that's a rare breed of power, speed, strength, and he also had one of the biggest totals in terms of long touchdowns. This is not a guy that gets a ton of goal line carries. Actually, Melvin Gordon produces just about as many long distance touchdowns than any running back that's not named Saquon Barkley. Contract or not, Melvin Gordon to me is one of the best running backs in football, with an all-around game that definitely deserves to be paid. Speaking about underrated NFL players, Darius Slay has to be one of the most underrated defensive players in the game today. They don't put him in the conversation of top corners. They really never speak about him when these conversations are brought up. Darius Slay is certainly one of the best corners in football. Last year, he had 8 interceptions and 26 passes defended. This season, 17 in that category and 3 picks. Now, he wasn't the all-pro that he was a season ago, but he was still playing at an extremely high level and being asked to do more as a man-to-man cover corner within the Matt Patricia defense. I do believe that Darius Slay will get a little bit more credit in this upcoming 2019 season, as he is going to be a part of a better defense this season, I do believe. But Darius Slay is just a true playmaker at the corner position, an extremely smart player, very good height, very good speed, length, and just an extremely scary corner to go against if you're a quarterback, because he's going to read your eyes and he's going to pick that pass off or make a play on the ball. Extremely good ball skills. At number 76, people were wondering whether Kevin Byard was a fluke. Well, he wasn't. Kevin Byard's one of the best safeties in the game, and he proved that in 2018. After leading the NFL in interceptions with 8 in 2017, being named an All-Pro and a Pro Bowl player, Kevin Byard bounced back once again. He came back in 2018, and he had another fantastic season, ranking amongst the league's best as a safety, and really being one of the best free safety roamers and just rangy type of secondary players in the entire NFL, really allowing the Titans secondary to do a lot of different things and allowing the Titans defense to be a top 10 unit in the NFL this past season. Kevin Byard is a player that kind of gets a little bit overlooked because he's only really been at this elite level for 2 seasons, but I think you can officially place his name amongst the best safeties in the game. Am I doing this right? T.Y. Hilton at number 75 is one of the best downfield threats in the NFL today. Andrew Luck's go-to receiver for many seasons. T.Y. Hilton is explosive. In any given week, he can go against any secondary in football and put up 200 yards. He did it multiple times over the course of the 2018 season. He's one of these receivers like Deshaun Jackson in his prime, where it doesn't matter how many catches he has over the course of a season or a game, but he can just make plays with any amount of receptions or opportunities. T.Y. Hilton is on any given play a threat to score a touchdown, and one of the most exciting receivers in football, remains one of the top go-to threats in the league here on the Top 100. At number 74, I have one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the NFL. That's Jurrell Casey of the Tennessee Titans. Casey's kind of been this solid player throughout the course of his career where he is amongst the elite in the interior defensive lineman conversation, but he's always kind of that last name thrown in there. He's very productive from his position. He's kind of one of these guys that isn't a stat guy. He just makes plays. He blows plays up. He's great in the run game. He's a very good interior pass rusher. And again, he is the best player on one of the top 10 defenses in football. Jurrell Casey quietly goes about his business, but he plays with an edge. He's kind of an old school football player that any NFL fan today would love to have on their team. Unfortunately, he plays for the Titans, so he doesn't get a ton of attention, but I'll give him his attention here on the Top 100. Number 73, I have one of the best route runners in all of football, and that is the LA Chargers' Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is probably the most unorthodox wide receiver in the game today when it comes to his route running, when it comes to putting different combinations together. He's just so different in his approach as a route runner, but he's also extremely effective. And Keenan Allen's also one of these guys that he doesn't jump off the page in terms of athleticism, so a lot of people sleep on him in that regard, but he has great hands. He has kind of deceptive downfield speed and ability, and again, he's just one of these receivers that finds a way to get open, and that's all that really matters when it comes to being a professional wide receiver in 2019. Keenan Allen is a tough wide receiver, Phillip Rivers' favorite guy, and one of my favorite receivers to watch on a consistent basis here on the Top 100. At number 72, I have old reliable Patrick Peterson, who is going to end up missing his first games of his NFL career in 2019 due to his suspension. But Patrick Peterson has been one of the best corners in football since being drafted. I do think he's taken a slight dip every season for a couple of years now, but man, that dip doesn't really show that he has lost any step whatsoever. He's still one of the most explosive football players with the ball in his hands as a returner or intercepting the football to go back to the house. He is a great man-to-man corner. Give him a receiver to go against, and you won't see that receiver for the entire game. He is kind of a specimen at the corner position that we've rarely seen over the course of NFL history, where he is like one of these Megatron Julio Joneses, but playing on the opposite side of the football field. Patrick Peterson is a special athlete, a special talent, and comes in here at the top 100, maybe surprisingly low, but he is getting a little bit up there in age. That's why I have him here on the list in the 70s. At number 71, I have the wide receiver breakout of 2018, and that was Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen had kind of a historic season in 2018 alongside Stephon Diggs and with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. Adam Thielen was on a pace that I've rarely seen from a wide receiver. And this is just due because Adam Thielen is a hard-working guy. He is one of the best route runners in the game and consistently finds ways to get open versus man-to-man coverage, crisp in his routes, and just one of the guys that is unstoppable. You're never going to stop Adam Thielen for under 5 or 4 receptions a game. It's going to be very, very rare that you frustrate him and that you make him kind of irrelevant in a game plan, because he is just so difficult to stop in that intermediate to short range. He has great hands. He has pretty deceptive speed for a white guy as well. And right now is probably holding that mantle for the white boys out there as the best white receiver in the NFL. At number 70, perhaps the most underrated aspect of the LA Rams run under Sean McVay over the past 2 seasons, their left tackle play with Andrew Whitworth. Whitworth has been a huge staple of this team over the past 2 seasons and a huge reason why they were able to make the Super Bowl in 2018. Whitworth, he protects that blind side for Jared Goff. You never have to worry about his matchup. He rarely loses that matchup. And when it comes to running the football, Andrew Whitworth still has the athleticism to be able to get out there in the screen game or in the run game and pull if you need him to. Andrew Whitworth is just an extremely reliable player, one of the greatest tackles that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and he just continues to play at a very high level, even if he's going on his last season or potentially his second last season. Whenever he decides to hang him up, Andrew Whitworth is definitely in consideration for a Hall of Fame caliber career. Kind of sucks that he didn't get the Super Bowl, but also at the same time, because I'm a Patriots fan, you know, it's tough, Andrew. At everybody's favorite number 69, I have Deshaun Watson, the quarterback of Houston. And the Texans, I think they've kind of had this blessing of Deshaun Watson over the past couple of seasons. He's really just one of these players where a lot of people throw out the name winner and they attach this to a lot of different quarterbacks and players across the NFL. But Deshaun Watson is one of these quarterbacks that is a young quarterback that you just see him as a winner. He's just won at every level, whether that's high school or college. In the NFL, right away, he's pretty much become a winner, bringing the Houston Texans to the playoffs, winning the AFC South in 2018. He has a very difficult road ahead of him with one of the worst, arguably the worst offensive line in football, but he's been able to carry this offense with his arm, with his legs, with his dual threat ability. He is one of the best quarterbacks in football, and I believe will be one of the elite quarterbacks in football for a very long time, and I would not be surprised if Deshaun Watson retires with multiple Super Bowl rings. At number 68, Chandler Jones of the Arizona Cardinals. For Chandler Jones, getting over 10 plus sacks has kind of become a routine in the NFL. This is a guy that's been leading the NFL in sacks over the past few seasons combined. After leading the NFL in sacks in 2017 with 17 sacks, he backed it up with a 13-sack season in 2018. He's just an incredible pass rusher, man, and I don't think he gets enough credit now because he's on the Cardinals, and the Cardinals aren't a great team at this point in time. Maybe they will be in the future towards the end of his career with Kyler Murray going forward. But right now, Chandler Jones is just one of these pure pass rushers that continues to rack up the totals and probably will end his career in the top 10 in sacks of all time. You just look at his numbers. Starting in his second season, 11.5, 12.5, 11, 17, 13. He continues to rack up 10 plus sacks, and I think he'll continue to do that for the next few seasons going forward in the NFL. He's an absolute monster, very difficult to stop because of his length and his arms and speed to power ability. He's just such a great player and kind of overlooked at this point. At number 67, the great AJ Green. And the reason why I call him the great AJ Green, because already at this point in his NFL career where he's established as a veteran, I kind of feel like he's already established as one of the best receivers of this era. He basically never doesn't go over 1,000 yards unless he's been injured. And that's been the main problem for AJ Green over the course of his NFL career. The injuries and being able to stay on the football field. When it comes to producing, it doesn't matter whether he doesn't have a running back or a quarterback or an offensive line around him or a second receiver to take the pressure off. AJ Green has been able to produce no matter the consequences. It's just been the injuries for him. He's absolutely incredible when it comes to jump ball situations. When it comes to impossible catches, AJ Green is up there for the best in football. And when he is fully healthy, he is one of the best receivers in football. He does get a slightly lower ranking than typical on this list due to the fact that he's been injured so often over the past couple of seasons. But hopefully 2019, we see AJ Green back to the peak of number 18. At number 66, I have a man that didn't even play in 2018. One of the best centers in the game, personally, in my opinion, the second best center in the game of the Dallas Cowboys, Travis Frederick. Now, Frederick did show his importance to the Cowboys as some of their offensive production definitely went down in 2018 without him when it comes to the running game. It wasn't until the Cowboys were able to get a number one receiver in there in Amari Cooper where it kind of relieved the stress of the offensive line. But with Travis Frederick coming back in 2019, it's going to make the Cowboys that much better. He is absolutely one of the best year after year when it comes to the center position, pass blocking, run blocking. He is as consistent as they come, as good as they come, a great leader along the offensive line, and definitely helps out his young quarterback, Dak Prescott, be an even better player. Travis Frederick, he's just so good, man, and I'm glad that he'll be back in 2019. At number 65, I have Geno Atkins. Just like his teammate AJ Green, Geno Atkins has been doing it for a long time at a very high level. As rare as it is for a defensive tackle to get over 10 sacks, Geno Atkins has kind of started like the trend of like being a 10 sack guy as a D tackle. Geno Atkins continues to be up there in sacks, and 10 sacks this past season, just like it's clockwork. Geno Atkins is one of the most difficult players to block in football because of how explosive and quick he is. No matter the injuries he's kind of had over his career, he's been able to bounce back and maintain that level of quickness, that level of explosiveness off the ball. And I know that Quentin Nelson actually said that he was one of the most difficult players to block early in his career this past season. That's high praise for a veteran that's not even in the peak or the highest level of his play, but he's still a very, very hard player to stop and one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. At number 64, a 23-year-old pass rusher that absolutely dominated the NFL in 2018, Daniel Hunter of the Minnesota Vikings. And the impressive part for me about what Daniel Hunter did in 2018 was that he improved while a lot of the players around him kind of regressed. You know, Harrison Smith, Xavier Rhodes especially, Everson Griffin especially. But on the other side of Everson Griffin, Daniel Hunter was going off for 14.5 sacks, yet he didn't have any forced fumbles, which I find that very odd, and I don't know why. He needs to improve that area of the game, but nonetheless, Daniel Hunter is a freaky athlete from the edge position with that amount of speed and power, and he is one of the best pass rushers in football. And the scary part is he's not even 24 yet, so Daniel Hunter is going to be an absolute problem in the NFL for many years to come, and the Vikings have a pass rusher from the edge that is going to be one of the best in the game for a very, very, very long time. At number 63, I have who I believe is the best center in all of football today. That is Jason Kelce of the Philadelphia Eagles. What Jason Kelce can do is just so rare from the center position because he's so athletic. You don't see this many centers that's able to block so far into the second level and pull and do all the crazy stuff that the Philadelphia Eagles do with Jason Kelce. Jason Kelce, he dominated last season's Super Bowl, and he carried that over into this season, dominating once again as Pro Football Focus's #1 ranked center. He is at the peak of his play, and it's kind of incredible that the Kelce brothers are at the peak of their play together. He doesn't get enough credit for how good he is, how athletic he is, and how special he is at his position for all he can do. At number 62, I have Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy, Davante Adams. Finally had that huge breakout season that we were all looking for in terms of not only putting together all the touchdowns, but the yards, the receptions, and just the complete game. Davante Adams was credited by Stephon Gilmore for having the best release off the line for a wide receiver in football. That's high praise for Davante Adams. It's kind of crazy from where Davante Adams has come from. Like back in 2015, he was looked at as an extremely overrated wide receiver who was only decent because he was with Aaron Rodgers. But now he's turned into one of the most complete best receivers in the game. He's not going to burn you with a ton of speed, but he's very physical, very savvy at the line to get past you, a pretty crisp route runner, and just has great chemistry and a connection with Aaron Rodgers that is special on back shoulder throws. In the red zone, he's one of the best receivers in the game. And Davante Adams, you can count on him to rack up a ton of touchdowns for the Green Bay Packers in 2019. At number 61, I have one of the best guards of this era. Never mind on this list or in the league, Marshall Yanda of the Baltimore Ravens. At one point, I did believe that he was the best guard in the league. He's not quite that anymore due to his age, but he's still playing at an extremely high level. Marshall Yanda is one of these players that I think he's continuing to just go about his business and do his thing and play at a high level. It's been nice that he's been a little bit healthier recently than he has over the past couple of seasons, and he is going to play a big role in how effective the Baltimore Ravens are as an offense with Lamar Jackson. The Ravens want to run the football, and there isn't much better when it comes to run blocking at the guard position than Marshall Yanda. We saw that last season in the way that they were establishing the run and make the playoffs, and a big part of that was Yanda at the right guard position. I believe that he'll have another great season in 2019, and he's just so consistent. He's just like the Andrew Whitworths of the world, where he is probably a Hall of Fame caliber guard. I think ever since Super Bowl 51, when Grady Jarrett went off against the New England Patriots, we kind of saw that there was something special in this guy. Grady Jarrett has gone on to become one of the most disruptive interior pass rushers for the Atlanta Falcons in all of football. Grady Jarrett has deservedly so been paid and is probably right now the best defensive player that Atlanta has on their football team. He is this player that you want in terms of just a quick, difficult guy to handle that you need to double team, you need to pay attention to on every given passing play. Going into his prime years, it will be interesting to see if Grady Jarrett can actually start to rack up those sack totals like some of his peers. At number 59, the man that I ranked as the most underrated defensive player in all of football going into 2019, DeForest Buckner, interior defensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers. How does 12 sacks go unnoticed? Well, you got to play for the 49ers defense. Buckner is going to really have a huge season in 2019 now that he actually has an edge rush around him with Nick Bosa and Dee Ford coming into the mix. Buckner is going to absolutely terrorize opposing quarterbacks if he wasn't already. Buckner is such a good player, a 6'7" giant on the defensive line. Extremely impressive because he's such a good pass rusher at over 300 pounds. Just so big, kind of like a Calais Campbell in his own right. And just, I think, is going to dominate the NFL for many more years to come. He's lived up to the billing as a high draft pick. DeForest Buckner will continue to do his thing both against the run and against the pass in 2019. At number 58, one of the best pure pass rushers in the entire NFL. Even if he missed games, Joey Bosa is just that. He's a guy that continuously gets pressure on the quarterback. He's relentless, he's hardworking, and he has a motor that is absolutely out of this world. There are games that I'll watch the Chargers where Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa essentially will have a contest for who can get to the quarterback faster, and Joey Bosa is just play after play after play, dominant. His speed to power game is arguably the best in the entire NFL. And even if he did miss some time, I think going into 2019, he's going to again get back to that special level of pass rushing productivity and remains one of the best edge players in the entire NFL. At number 57, in my opinion, the best run stuffer from the edge position in the entire NFL, a man that's holding out right now for the Houston Texans, Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney is an athlete, and that's really all you can say. He is crazy on the football field, just with his speed and strength combination, and just like he absolutely demoralizes offensive linemen on a week-to-week basis because he can engage them and disengage so quickly. He can manhandle them, and he can blitz at a crazy level that just throws you off, and it's actually pretty amazing to watch Jadeveon Clowney from a week-to-week basis. He may not be the pass rusher that everyone expected being drafted first overall, but as a run defender, he is absolutely the best in football. At number 56, the best right tackle in the game, in my opinion, Mitchell Schwartz. There's a reason why Patrick Mahomes was the MVP of football, and that's partly because he was able to stand upright because he had the best right tackle protecting him. Mitchell Schwartz is a really underrated player and the most underrated player on Kansas City's offense. He is an excellent player that rarely ever gets beat. If you look at his sacks, I think he only gave up like 1 sack all year or something of that nature. Mitchell Schwartz is a consistent force on the offensive line. He is really good in the screen game, which Andy Reid loves. And a big part of Mitchell Schwartz's game with Patrick Mahomes is the ability to maintain your block and be able to hold that edge as Patrick Mahomes escapes to his right side of the field. Mitchell Schwartz allows him to do that as the right tackle for Patrick Mahomes to get outside the pocket and sling it. So Mitchell Schwartz is here in the 50s as the best right tackle in the game. At number 55, a surprise cornerback from the Chicago Bears, Kyle Fuller really elevated his game as one of the best corners in the league. Man coverage, zone coverage. It just seemed like the Chicago Bears secondary was making plays everywhere, and Fuller was a part of that with a ton of interceptions, a ton of big plays, and Kyle Fuller really shut down opposing number 1 wide receivers with great consistency. He is, going into next season, one of the best young corners in football, and is a part of the best defense going into 2019. Kyle Fuller definitely deserves this place on the top 100. At number 54, Trey Flowers, now of the Detroit Lions, a special part of the recent Patriots Super Bowl victories. Trey Flowers has just come up with big plays and big moments. Now, he's not a guy that's racked up a ton of sacks, but if you've seen him play, you know that he plays with top-tier technique. He plays with tenacity, and he plays with top-tier physicality. Trey Flowers is just an all-around very good player. He has basically no weaknesses to his game, and he's going to bring that to Detroit. Really playing for Matt Patricia, a guy that knows how Trey Flowers plays. He can move him around just about anywhere. He can pass rush from the edge. He can pass rush from the interior, and that's what makes him such a versatile, important piece of any defense he plays on. At number 53, Frank Clark, a very similar player to Trey Flowers with slightly more production. Frank Clark may have a history off the field, but on the field, since playing for the Seahawks and now going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs, really forming a dominant duo with Chris Jones. He is just special like Trey Flowers. No weaknesses to his game. Very good against the run, but even better as a pass rusher. Can line up just about anywhere. And he pretty much lined up a lot where they used to line up Michael Bennett in the interior as a pass rusher as well. And he's very good at that. Frank Clark dominates games. He takes over games and he dominates opposing offensive lines. He's a very good football player, and the Seahawks will really miss him in 2019. At number 52, a guy that didn't play last year and actually held out the entire season, Le'Veon Bell. But when Le'Veon Bell plays, we know how good he can be. And even if he was in Pittsburgh with a great offensive line, doesn't matter. Le'Veon Bell's a special talent. He's a special running back. There are not many running backs that are able to say that they kind of change the way that running backs play. And when you watch Le'Veon Bell, he plays with such patience that it makes other running backs take notice and try to play with that same patience. He has a great vision behind the line of scrimmage to take it and to hit that hole with great speed and explosion. He's a phenomenal pass catcher, an all-around running back, and he may not have the gear like Saquon Barkley or Todd Gurley, but he has phenomenal side-to-side quickness, really difficult to take down, and has a receiver quality to him that's next level, Hall of Fame quality talent. At number 51, I have the Indianapolis Colts phenom, Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard is one of these linebackers that doesn't just rack up tackles, but it's the quality of tackles and also the quality of plays that this guy makes. He is a playmaker at the linebacker position. There's a difference between being a guy that has a lot of tackles and being a game-changing, playmaking middle linebacker. And Darius Leonard shows that not only with all the sacks he racks up, but also just the game quality type of plays that he makes for this defense. He was able to elevate one of the worst, least talented defenses in the NFL, and with his playmaking ability in the middle, he was the biggest reason why this defense changed and elevated in 2018. Darius Leonard is an extremely great athlete at the linebacker position, very good in coverage, very good downhill, and really, for a rookie, had no weaknesses to his game. He just had a phenomenal season and filled up the stat sheet like no other linebacker in the game, including the very best Bobby Wagner and Luke Kuechly. Leonard is going to compete for the title of the best middle linebacker for many years to come. At number 50, I have Superman himself, Cam Newton. Cam Newton was a little bit banged up last year, and the Carolina Panthers, they showed that when Cam Newton is not at peak Cam Newton, they're just not that great of a team because Cam Newton carries the Panthers. He always has and he always will as long as he is there. Cam Newton is a special football player. He's one of the more special quarterbacks we've ever seen in NFL history. His ability to run and throw and dominate a game and change a game, and he was an MVP before and he has a chance to be an MVP again. I really loved the way Norv Turner used his skill set in 2018. I'm excited to see how he utilizes a healthy Cam Newton in 2019. Christian McCaffrey coming into his own as a star running back will really help Cam because he's never had a star running back before, and he's really only ever had one star receiver. Hopefully DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel can elevate their play as well. An improved offensive line should hopefully improve the health and consistency of Cam Newton going forward, but Cam is Superman for a reason. He is a special talent. He'll continue to rack up those rushing touchdowns, and I think he'll lead to the Panthers having a very good season in 2019. I have one of the greatest safeties, I think, of all time, Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas, a legendary Seahawk, now will find a new home in 2019 with the Baltimore Ravens. What makes Earl Thomas special is that he doesn't have a weakness to his game. He's a free safety that plays with more toughness than a strong safety. He can come downhill and smack you, and that's a rare thing for a NFL safety in today's game, and actually knowing how to hit and effectively hit is different than just hitting a guy. And a lot of people can tackle, but not a lot of guys can hit, and Earl Thomas can hit. He can also cover better than just about anybody. There's a great free safety, and then there's Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas is the closest thing since Ed Reed we have seen in the NFL since his retirement, and Earl Thomas is a playmaker. He only played like 4 games this year, but he had 3 interceptions. He is going to cover so many holes for what the Baltimore Ravens will do with their secondary, and it allows this secondary to do so much more in terms of flexibility because Earl Thomas can cover so much ground. He's so intelligent, and he's so good. Earl Thomas is still one of the best safeties in the game, and if he had played more games this past season, I'd probably have him way higher than this. At number 48, DeMarcus Lawrence, the centerpiece of the Dallas Cowboys defense and defensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence is a monster, and he's really shown that he is a consistent pass rushing force over the past 2 seasons. He's really come into his own. He's very good technically, but also just a great specimen off the edge and produces a ton of pressure, really single-handedly, doesn't have a ton around him in terms of guys that take away the shades and take away the chips and take away the attention from an offensive line. DeMarcus Lawrence is the one-man wrecking crew on the Dallas Cowboys defensive line that kind of sets up everybody else to have success along with it. And that's why the Cowboys are so successful, because they have this great centerpiece pass rushing force like DeMarcus Lawrence. Then they have those guys behind him at linebacker, and it allows their corners to play with aggression behind him. So DeMarcus Lawrence is an all-around great football player, got his contract, I think is going to be heading into his prime, playing better than ever in 2019. At number 47, a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the greatest ever, Ben Roethlisberger, had a 5,000-yard season, which not many quarterbacks in the course of NFL history have done. But Ben Roethlisberger can join that group. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have more pressure in 2019 than he has in a very long time. He's lost Antonio Brown. Of course, he's lost Le'Veon Bell now for the second straight season. And really, Juju is the only proven weapon around him. Ben Roethlisberger is going to have to show that he is a true leader. He's going to have to show those haters what he can do. And Ben Roethlisberger, to me, is one of the best deep passers of all time. He's one of the best guys in terms of extending a play because of how big he is. He's one of the toughest quarterbacks of all time, even though he's a kind of a prima donna. He is a great quarterback, a Hall of Fame player, and deserves his place here amongst one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going into 2019. At number 46, already as a rookie, Quentin Nelson made an impression as one of the best offensive linemen in football because he's an absolute animal that wrecks defensive players. He is probably already the most feared offensive lineman when he's pulling out to block because he destroys people. He's tough, he's big, he's powerful, he's fast for a big guy, and Quentin Nelson is fierce. He has this old school mentality that he brings to the modern game that I absolutely love. Quentin Nelson is absolutely as good as the hype suggests. At number 45, another rookie back-to-back, Derwin James showed that he shouldn't have slipped so far in the first round of last year's NFL draft, immediately having an impact in both the run game and the passing game at the safety spot. Derwin James is very close to a guy like Jamal Adams in the fact that he can come downhill and make plays as a linebacker type, or he can also make plays as a free safety type. Derwin James can line up against tight ends or running backs. He can even just destroy a game in terms of his playmaking ability. He's one of these safeties that combines great intelligence, but also strength, physicality, and also more speed than you would expect from a guy of his size. Derwin James is special and is only going to get better. At number 44, one of the best corners in the NFL still, Chris Harris has great versatility, whether that's lining up in his traditional role as a slot corner and shutting down every slot receiver in the NFL, or lining up outside where he more recently has done more often in Denver. Chris Harris unfortunately went down with an injury this past season. We're going to have to see how he comes back from that in 2019, but he remains one of the best man-to-man shutdown corners in the game going into 2019. At number 43, Zach Ertz had his best season yet, setting NFL records in 2018. Whether it's Carson Wentz or Nick Foles, Zach Ertz proves that he's just that good, and he is probably the best route runner at his position in the league. He's not as fast as George Kittle, he's not as athletic as Travis Kelce, but he has great hands. He knows how to get open, he understands zone defenses, and he can beat you with his savviness as a tight end. Kind of reminds me of Jason Witten in that regard as a route runner. I think he'll continue to get it done as Carson Wentz's favorite option in 2019. At number 42, in my opinion, the second best tackle in the NFL. There's a reason why not only the Saints are a great offense, great at protecting the passer, also great at run blocking. Armstead's a huge reason why Drew Brees continues to play at a high level, because he doesn't have to worry about his blind side. Armstead, the only real flaw in his game is that he does get injured, but when he does play, he's in the debate for the best left tackle in the game, shuts down the best pass rushers in the league, and is just continuing to play at a very high level at left tackle. At number 41, back-to-back Saints on the countdown. Michael Thomas is really made his name after leading the NFL in receptions, and he is going to go into 2019 again as the clear-cut favorite to be Drew Brees' favorite target and one of the leading receptors in the NFL. He's also looking for a new contract. A lot of people like him more than me. I'm just going to say that. I think he does suffer from not having the deep speed of other receivers, but he makes up for it in his physicality as a receiver and his ability to get off the line in his release, and also his ability to kind of just find ways to get open. He's also a very good route runner, and Sean Payton knows how to utilize his size and his physicality in the right situations, whether that's outside or inside. Michael Thomas is one of these receivers who's very difficult to shut down because he has such great chemistry with his quarterback and phenomenal hands to find the football no matter where he is on the field. At number 40, in my opinion, the best run-blocking guard in all of football, Shaq Mason opened up rushing lanes for Sony Michel and the Patriot running backs in 2018 all the way to a Super Bowl victory. Shaq Mason has allowed the Patriots to shift to more of a run-centered offense with Tom Brady aging. They needed to run the football a little bit more, and Shaq Mason is just incredible. He is so powerful, so strong, and just dominates opposing defensive linemen. He's just too big and too strong for them, and he continues to just be an absolute force. He also improved as a pass blocker in 2018 and really kind of bounced back from that forced fumble that was sort of his fault in that Super Bowl against Brandon Graham and the Eagles. Shaq Mason, he was the lead blocker on that touchdown for Sony Michel in the Super Bowl, and he'll continue to be one of the best guards entering his prime in 2019, protecting Tom Brady and opening up lanes for Patriot running backs. At number 39, a player that doesn't really get ranked where he should, and that's where I'm giving him his credit right now, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is certainly around the top 5 wide receiver conversation. On this list, I believe he ranks number 6. Mike Evans is special. He is absolutely a freak. He's 6'5" or 6'6". He goes up, he gets the football. He's extremely difficult to guard because there's not many 6'6" corners. Actually, there's 0. So it allows him to go up there and catch the football over people's heads. It doesn't matter if it's Fitzpatrick or Winston throwing him the ball. He'll go up, he'll get it. It doesn't matter if he's double teamed. He'll go up, he'll get it. He's actually a little bit faster than you would think. He's extremely strong, which allows him to get off the line very easily. He is such a good player, and I think he's going to get even more recognition this season inside the Bruce Arians offense. I'm extremely excited to see what he does inside this new offensive scheme, and I just think he needs more credit. Mike Evans is here entering the 30s. At number 38, probably the most competitive, funny quarterback in the NFL, that is Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers is one of my favorite quarterbacks in football and has been for a long time because he's so funny to watch, because he's just crazy on the football field and he's so competitive. But where Philip Rivers does not get enough credit is his ability to play behind bad offensive lines and still be extremely effective. Philip Rivers was pressured a lot last season, and he was still able to put up really great numbers. One of his best seasons ever. He was in the MVP conversation last year, and he's still searching for that Super Bowl ring. In my opinion, he is a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. He's extremely intelligent, and you're never out of a game with Philip Rivers as your quarterback. At number 37, perhaps the best athlete in all of football, edge player for the Cleveland Browns, Myles Garrett. I did predict that Myles Garrett will lead the NFL in sacks this upcoming season. I'm hoping I'm right, but for now, Myles Garrett is going to have to prove that he's going to enter that Von Miller, Khalil Mack kind of area in terms of these edge producers. For me, he's just underneath that right now. He's still growing as a football player, and apparently he was only allowed to use one pass rushing move. Maybe if he uses more than that, he'll have even more than 13.5 sacks. He's just such a great athlete, such a good guy it seems, and I think he's the perfect centerpiece for the Cleveland Browns team for going into this Baker Mayfield era. Myles Garrett's going to be a force off the edge for many years to come. He lived up to the number 1 pick and will do that in the coming years. Myles Garrett is one of the best edge players already in his NFL career. At number 36, I think there's a case to be made that George Kittle is the best tight end in football. After Rob Gronkowski retired, a lot of people have been searching for that guy that's not only a great receiver, which George Kittle is, but also a pretty good blocker. And I'm not saying George Kittle is on Rob Gronkowski's level in terms of the blocking, but George Kittle is perhaps the most unique player in the league for his ability as a big tight end to be such a great player after the catch. He might be the best weapon after the catch in the entire NFL, and he plays tight end. He has great speed. He's difficult to catch. He's difficult to take down in that Rob Gronkowski mold. And he has the competitiveness and physicality and toughness to block at that same time. George Kittle, to me, it's not long until he takes over for Travis Kelce for being the best tight end in football, because he just produces at such a level in terms of his yards per catch that it's very special. I think he's met his match made in heaven in terms of being in this Kyle Shanahan offense, and he did it with lackluster quarterback play. In 2019, expect just the same from George Kittle that you saw in his historic 2018 season. At number 35, Jamal Adams, safety of the New York Jets. Jamal Adams, to me, is the best strong safety in all of football. Jamal Adams is, I think, what a lot of people thought Landon Collins was going to be. That's kind of what Jamal Adams is right now. Jamal Adams is the best in-box safety in all of football. The plays I make this guy make is, it's like he's Ray Lewis at linebacker. He comes down into the box, he tackles running backs behind the line. He's a special playmaker in terms of taking away tight ends in coverage. And all around, he just doesn't have many holes. You know, maybe he's not the fastest, most rangiest safety, but he is a strong safety, not a free safety. Where he makes up for it is his physicality, his ability to hit you, his ability to lead on the field. And as a young player, he's going to only get better. Jamal Adams, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm extremely excited to have one of, if not the best safety in football right now. At number 34, the best playmaker in the secondary from 2018, Eddie Jackson of the Chicago Bears. Eddie Jackson, I have never seen a defensive back return so many touchdowns in such a short span of their NFL career. He has a special ability to sense or get an interception or a forced fumble. He has that Peanut Tillman quality to him, that Charles Woodson quality to him, where if he continues to play at this level, he could go down as a Hall of Fame quality playmaker as a safety. Do I think he's like great as a man cover guy? Not really. He's really good as a zone cover guy. He is just so smart and just has such a great anticipation for the game of football, which makes him extremely special for a safety. Eddie Jackson is only going into his third season, and he is going to go into that season as the best safety in football. At number 33, to me, the best guard in all of football. While Shaq Mason might have had a slightly better 2018, I do believe Zach Martin has done it for a longer period of time, and that's why he ranks here at number 1 as a guard on the top 100. Zach Martin did it without his partner in crime, Travis Frederick, at the center position, and still played at an extremely high level, ranking in at number 2, but as PFF's number 2 guard in the NFL. Zach Martin continues to open up those holds for Zeke Elliott. And, of course, they're going to run at Zach Martin every time they can. Zach Martin's a special player. He is just no flaws to his game at the guard position. And if he continues on this pace, he's on a Hall of Fame path. At number 32, one of the best playmakers in all of football, Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. Really, Drew Brees' number 2 receiver and the leading rusher for the Saints in 2018. Kamara is perhaps the best. It's with him and Christian McCaffrey for the best receiving back in all of football. I will give Alvin Kamara this. He's better in terms of down the field. It's actually pretty amazing what you see from Alvin Kamara when it comes to receiving the football down the field. From the running back position, you don't see that very often, but they almost use him as a semi-deep threat as well. He's so effective in his route running. He's impossible to stop one-on-one. And as a runner, he's very explosive and faster and more explosive in terms of big plays than you would have thought. He can also return punts or kicks if you need him to. He is just a really good football player and dangerous with the football in his hands because of his vision and because of his quickness and speed combination. At number 31, back-to-back running backs, I feel like they're this close. Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey just a little bit outproduced Alvin Kamara in 2018, and I feel like he just plays a bigger role for the Panthers than Kamara does for the Saints. That's why the ranking is a little bit higher than Alvin Kamara, but Christian McCaffrey, again, this guy, I didn't think he was going to be this good. I'm going to be honest. I thought he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be this good. He's really good. And he surprised me as a runner in terms of within the tackles. He's proven that he's really good in that area of the game. For such a small white dude, he is special in that area. He has really good vision, but just his strength is actually impressive. His contact balance is really good, and he's quick. He's very smart. And as a receiver, he could play receiver. He could play slot receiver if you want him to. I think he's better than Kamara in terms of like dump offs and traditional routes out of the backfield or as a receiver. But in terms of downfield, that's where I kind of give Kamara the edge. In terms of McCaffrey, man, he is just... he surprised me. That's all I can say. I want to see him do more, and I want to see what he can do with a healthy Cam Newton for a full 16 games. McCaffrey is going to continue to go on to surprise people in the same way that other white skill position players do, like Adam Thielen or Julian Edelman or Wes Welker. McCaffrey is kind of one of the kind at a running back position. At number 30, Matt Ryan had one of his best seasons of his NFL career in 2018. He put up the stats. He was near 5,000 yards. And really, when you look at his stats, they were kind of in line with his MVP season. And to me, where Matt Ryan has gotten better than his MVP season is his ability to play outside of a system. Remember, in 2016, he had arguably the best offensive coordinator in all of football in Kyle Shanahan, and it was more set up for him to have that success. He's a great quarterback, no doubt about it. He deserved that MVP award, no doubt about it. But with Kyle Shanahan, he just makes it easier. But with one of the worst offensive coordinators in football, Matt Ryan was still able to make plays outside of the pocket, under pressure, with not a great offensive line, which will now be upgraded going into 2019. He has a special combination with Julio Jones. He does have the great weapons around him, but Matt Ryan was able to do it with a lackluster running game in 2018 and still have one of the best offenses. His defense let him down, and he may have racked up some yardage and some stats when they were down by a lot of points, but that's going to happen when your team isn't as good as it should be. In 2019, I expect a bounce back from Atlanta as a team, and if Matt Ryan sustains his level of play, he could be a two-time MVP. At number 29, one of the most dominant and consistent edge players in the NFL, Cameron Jordan, has really become one of the best edge players in football. There was a few seasons ago where Cameron Jordan was kind of like pushing to be one of those top tier guys, and now people have just kind of said, yeah, Cam, you're one of the best. You know, Cameron Jordan is very versatile. He can play inside, he can play outside. He's perhaps the best run defender at his position, and he has gotten better and better and better and more productive as a pass rusher as his career has gone on. He continues to play at a very high level. He is always in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, and just like some of the best defensive players in football, he is capable of taking over any game in any season, like this past season against the Carolina Panthers. Absolutely ridiculous. Cameron Jordan, special football player, very good team guy, very good leader for the Saints defense. At number 28 on the top 100, probably the biggest trash talker in the NFL today, Jalen Ramsey. Not only does Jalen Ramsey talk, and he talks a lot, but he backs it up on the football field. Jalen Ramsey is one of the few shutdown corners in football today, whether that's in man-to-man coverage or zone coverage. He will give you issues if you're a wide receiver. He's really physical at the line. He'll get in your face, and he has the ball skills to pick off anything in his vicinity. He is one of these corners today in the NFL that a lot of quarterbacks just steer away from. They don't even pass it near him. They don't even pass it to his side. They entirely avoid him in games. You'll see it. Just turn on the tape. Jalen Ramsey is an excellent cornerback that's just entering his prime now. He may not have had a great season the way he did in 2017, where he was playing at a Hall of Fame level. In 2018, he did take a step back, but expect 2019 to see that 2017 Jalen Ramsey reform. At number 27, Pro Football Focus's #1 rated edge player of 2018, Jalen Ramsey's teammate on the Jaguars, Calais Campbell. The thing I love about Calais Campbell is his versatility, but he is just an absolute freak. He is about 6'7", 6'8", and he plays edge, but he can also play defensive tackle. The other thing I love about Calais Campbell is that he's done it, and he's done it well in just about any system and any sort of scheme that you want. Whether that was as an Arizona Cardinal in more of a traditional 3-4 scheme, or in a 4-3 based scheme in Jacksonville, Calais Campbell can do it all. He can rush from just about anywhere. He's a dominant player. He imposes his will, and he's just kind of like a man among boys out there in the NFL. Calais Campbell comes in here at number 27. At number 26, in my opinion, the best left tackle in all of football, the best offensive lineman in all of football, David Bakhtiari. And it's actually pretty crazy how underrated and how nobody really from a casual standpoint knows who David Bakhtiari is, but he was Pro Football Focus's #1 rated tackle again this season, and he is just such a consistent pass blocking presence for Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers doesn't have to worry about whoever he's blocking. He can just worry about everything else. And then Aaron Rodgers, because he's kind of one of those quarterbacks that likes to maneuver around the pocket, step up, step back, go to the side, maybe go outside of the pocket and throw on the run. David Bakhtiari is one of these left tackles that allows him to do that. You rarely ever see him get beat. To me, he's one of the best pass blocking tackles I've ever seen in my life, and he continues to play at a great level, an all-pro caliber level. David Bakhtiari is one of those quiet players in the NFL that's just excellent at his job. At number 25 on the top 100, the monster in the middle of the Chicago Bears defense, Akiem Hicks. Akiem Hicks is one of those players that takes up space in a front seven on a defensive line and allows everyone else around him to do their job at a much higher level, because he demands double teams in the run game, he demands double teams in the pass game, and he is a game wrecker. He may not have the statistics of an Aaron Donald or Chris Jones, but Akiem Hicks is a game wrecker. There's no doubt about it. He is one of the best run-stuffing defensive tackles in the NFL, and he's also a dominant pass rusher that can push back linemen into the quarterback's face. This is probably the only player in football that Bill Belichick has ever missed on, in terms of he was on the Patriots, he was very good for the Patriots, he leaves the Patriots and gets even better. He goes to an all-pro level and dominates the NFL. Akiem Hicks deserves to be put in the conversation as one of the best interior linemen in the NFL, and his dominance doesn't go unnoticed on the top 100. At number 24, we're going back-to-back interior defensive linemen. Chris Jones is one of the best pass rushers, period, in all of football. Just go back to his dominant performance in the divisional round of the Indianapolis Colts versus the Kansas City Chiefs. He was in Andrew Luck's face all game, destroying the entire offensive line of the Indianapolis Colts. An offensive line that was being hyped up all week. Chris Jones dominated that game. He dominated the NFL regularly last season and was one of the leading sack leaders in the entire NFL. As an interior defensive lineman, Chris Jones is a power player with deceptive quickness inside, which allows him to be such a productive pass rusher. He helped and was the main reason why the Kansas City Chiefs were the leading sack team in the NFL in 2018. And in 2019, he'll form a dominant duo with Frank Clark in Kansas City. I'm kind of intrigued to see how he switches to Spagnuolo's defense and how that impacts his game and his statistics. But overall, Chris Jones can do it all. He's a dominant player. He might not be the run stuffer that Akeem Hicks is, but his pass rushing productivity takes him to the next level. At number 23, he can finally take the mantle. He can finally be named the best tight end in all of football. Travis Kelce is a special receiver. Now, I think a lot of fans get on him for not being the greatest blocker in the world, but let's focus on what Travis Kelce does better than anybody in football, and that's be a receiver in the middle of the field. And the way that Travis Kelce is utilized in the Kansas City Chiefs offense just shows you how valuable he is. No tight end is utilized in more ways, in more creative ways than Travis Kelce. He is used in the screen game. He is used as a runner in the backfield. He is utilized as a inline tight end. He is utilized as a slot receiver. He's utilized out wide. Travis Kelce, he's a mismatch on every player basically in the entire NFL, which allows him to rack up all these receptions, all these yards, and he's dominant after the catch. Travis Kelce is one of the best receivers, period, in the league, tight end or wide receiver, and deserves to finally be called the best tight end in football. At number 22, people may be a bit surprised by this, but I have Aaron Rodgers at number 22. Now, 2018 was a down season for Aaron Rodgers. I think we can all admit that. He had the most throwaways in NFL history, according to Pro Football Focus. But going into 2019, the thing I'm fascinated with Aaron Rodgers is two things. How does he commit himself to a new offensive system? How does this change his game, and how does he adapt to it? And number two, now that he has a player that's just as physically talented as him, how does he respond? Patrick Mahomes has given Aaron Rodgers a run for his money in terms of the best thrower of the football, the best outside the pocket, and just the best pure athlete at quarterback in the NFL. And Aaron Rodgers finally has competition. So let's see how Aaron Rodgers responds to that. He's a very competitive guy. He's a very confident guy. And I'm sure in 2019 he wants to get his team back to the playoffs, but he also wants to show the NFL fans that he can still be the best quarterback in football. I believe he can, but because he still has the arm, he still has the accuracy, he still has everything. He was a bit banged up last season. Let's see how this new Matt LaFleur system takes to Aaron Rodgers in 2019. At number 21, I have Mr. Big Chest Antonio Brown. He is back in black, back in silver and black in 2019. And Antonio Brown is still one of the greatest receivers in the game. To me, he's still the best route runner in the game. He may have lost a little in terms of speed, but overall, he's still one of the quickest guys side to side, one of the toughest to tackle, and he pretty much has no weakness to his game. And even for a guy that's been kind of undersized as a wide receiver, he is excellent down the field. He is excellent in contested catch situations, and that's what makes Antonio Brown special. But I think Antonio Brown, where he separates himself from every other receiver, and he has made it known that he wants to chase Jerry Rice's records. To me, Antonio Brown is the guy that can do it because he is the hardest working receiver in the game. And I haven't seen many receivers work as hard as Antonio Brown. And that's something that corners will also praise Antonio Brown for, is his work ethic, not only on the practice field, but in a game. He never gives up on a play. He never gives up on a route. And Antonio Brown is not only one of the most talented receivers, but the hardest working, which allows him to stay at the top of the NFL at his position year in and year out. At number 20, Todd Gurley had a phenomenal 2018 and a great 2017, but we saw that the injuries could be adding up for Todd Gurley. I will say Todd Gurley does deserve his contract. There's been a lot of talk about Todd Gurley running back contracts, and to me, Todd Gurley deserves his contract, and there's one reason why he deserves it. Because he is the engine of his offense. He makes the McVay system go. Without the running game of Todd Gurley, it is not the same. I understand CJ Anderson had production within this system, but we saw in the Super Bowl that the Patriots didn't respect CJ Anderson. You needed a weapon like Todd Gurley, a weapon that could burst plays wide open, that could create big explosive plays on the ground. And Todd Gurley does that just about better than any other running back in football. He's an excellent receiver. He's very well-rounded. He has great contact balance. Todd Gurley is one of the best backs in the game. I hope he can stay healthy and prove that he is one of the best running backs of this era. At number 19 on the top 100, the most intelligent defensive player in all of football. A field general in the true sense of the word, Luke Kuechly, linebacker from the Carolina Panthers. Kuechly diagnoses plays that an offense is running better than any linebacker or defensive player in all of football. And there's a reason why he leads the NFL in linebacker tackles for loss with 20 in 2018. Because he reads the play, he knows the play before it's going to happen, and then he makes the tackle. He can physically do it, go sideline to sideline. He can cover better than just about anybody as well. But he can also read it from a mental standpoint. So you combine the mental with the physical at the linebacker position, and it doesn't get any better than Luke Kuechly right now in the NFL. At number 18 on the top 100, the best corner in all of football right now, in my opinion, Stephon Gilmore of the New England Patriots. Stephon Gilmore had a historic playoff run for the Patriots in 2018. What he did, his passer rating was better than if every pass were to be incomplete in his direction, which is absolutely phenomenal against the best receivers in the NFL, whether it was lining up against Keenan Allen, Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. It didn't matter who he was covering. His coverage was better than anything you could possibly do, anything imaginable. So Stephon Gilmore, what he is asked to do on a week-to-week basis is probably more than any other shutdown corner in the league. He's usually asked to take away the number one option for a passing game, and if he's not, he's asked to go on an island against the number two. He plays more man coverage than any corner in the league. I have no doubt about it. The Patriots play more man coverage than any team in the league, and that is due to Stephon Gilmore's ability to play on an island and take away that number one wide receiver. Gilmore's excellent in press. He's excellent in his ability to bat down passes, which is, he was one of the top in the NFL in 2018, and he continues to play an elite level. And really since week 4 or 5 in the 2017 season, Gilmore has lived up to his contract and exceeded it as the best corner in the NFL. At number 17, the biggest weapon in football today, that is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs is a one-play touchdown player. He is like something out of a video game. He is the fastest player in the league. He is the most difficult to stop in open space. And once he gets the football in his hands, any single play that he has it could be a touchdown. Anywhere on the football field, he has that special quality. Tyreek Hill is not the most refined receiver in terms of route running or in terms of his release or in terms of his hands even, but Tyreek Hill is the most dangerous, and that's why he is a top 5 receiver right now in the NFL. At number 16, the most famous player in all of football, that's Odell Beckham Jr., and he gets a lot of attention for his off the field and his social media and what he's doing on Instagram, but when it comes to football, Odell Beckham Jr., there are not many better. He is one of the most explosive weapons in all of football, and I'm super excited to see him in Cleveland as opposed to New York, where I feel like he was kind of carrying his quarterback, Eli Manning. Now in Cleveland, he gets to play with the best quarterback he's ever had in Baker Mayfield. He gets to play with the best number 2 receiver he's ever had in Jarvis Landry, and under the most creative coordinator as well. So Odell Beckham Jr., he is probably the only guy that I would argue could go toe-to-toe with Tyreek Hill for explosive plays. Any given point on the field, whether that's a slant on the 5-yard line or a go route or even throwing the football or a reverse, Odell Beckham Jr. is a threat to take it the distance any single play, and that's what makes him special, along with his route running, which is next level. He's right up there with Antonio Brown, and his ability to explode out of his routes and make everything look and feel different, but just confuse a corner in a way, but also his quickness in and out of breaks is just something that's rarely been seen over the course of NFL history. He's an excellent player, and when his head is in it, he's probably the best receiver in football. We'll see if he can maintain his health, which is very important, and maintain his head in 2019 for the Cleveland Browns. And if he can be the best receiver in the game. At number 15, Bobby Wagner, defensive leader of the Seattle Seahawks. Bobby Wagner, to me, is the best linebacker in the game right now. He is just complete. Very much like Luke Kuechly, very intelligent, but also has the physical capability to do everything that you want at the linebacker position. He's probably the best in pass coverage. He might be the best against the run as well. Bobby Wagner, I think he became the number one linebacker in the game when he was asked for this defense in Seattle to become his. Richard Sherman is gone. Cam Chancellor is gone. Now Earl Thomas is gone. Michael Bennett gone as well. All these guys left. Bobby Wagner stayed. He became the guy there and then elevated his game to the next level. Bobby Wagner's at the peak of his play, in his prime right now for Seattle and their defense, and the best linebacker in the game. At number 14, it's actually pretty crazy that this would be considered not one of the best J.J. Watt seasons of all time, but J.J. Watt is here at number 14, and he had 17 sacks in 2018, and that's not even really considered a great J.J. Watt season when you've gone over 20 sacks twice and you've won the Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. J.J. Watt just dominates at a different level. He's held to a higher expectation. And the only guy that comes close to him in this era of defensive football is Aaron Donald for what he's done over the course of his career and how he was able to come back from injury and prove himself as still being one of the best defensive players in the game. Deserves a ton of respect. His work ethic is incredible. He is a dominant player week in, week out. He really demands more attention than just about any other defensive player. He is a game plan wrecker and is really one of the greatest defensive players we've ever seen. At number 13, the Dallas Cowboys offensive engine, Ezekiel Elliott, running back. I think he is the second best running back in football right now. Zeke is really the engine that makes everything go for the Dallas Cowboys offense. I understand the offensive line is very talented. It's one of the best in the league. I understand Dak is pretty good as well. But without Zeke, this offense wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't have the threat of the run the same way. Zeke is the only bell cow in the game right now, at least according to 2018 statistics, where he was the only running back in the NFL to have 15 carries in 10 plus games. So Zeke is really an old school running back playing in the new era. He is an excellent pass catcher. We saw those receptions go up as well in 2018. Just an all-around football player, very explosive. When he gets the chance, he can take it the distance. I think it's going to help him this season that Travis Frederick is back in the fold, and I think he's going to have even better statistics in 2019. Zeke just continues to grind away at becoming one of the best Dallas Cowboy running backs we've ever seen. At number 12 on the top 100, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, it's been kind of fascinating to see how he's grown as a personality over the course of this offseason. I think the Sierra things kind of helped. I think the contract has also helped. But Russell Wilson has grown into a different personality a little bit, and I'm intrigued to see how that changes his play on the football field, if at all. But the unique thing about Russell Wilson as a quarterback is not only is he multi-dimensional in terms of running and passing, but his efficiency is incredible. Like, his touchdowns, to be able to throw 35 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, but have an offense that runs the football as much as the Seahawks do, which is the more than anybody, and still have 35 touchdowns. That speaks to how talented Russell Wilson is. He's a great deep ball passer. He's great at extending the play and really makes up for not a very good offensive line. Wilson is one of those quarterbacks that you can't bet against because he's just so talented and he has the capability of carrying his football team no matter how talented it is. Russell Wilson comes in here at number 12. At number 11 on the top 100, Von Miller, Denver Broncos edge destroyer. Von Miller is arguably the best pass rusher of this era from the edge. He's just incredible in terms of his numbers, his consistency. He has the best bend of any edge player in the league, and he consistently dominates opponents, no matter how good the defensive players around him are, no matter who's injured or who's banged up, no matter how good his offense is. He's a great leader as well. He's kind of grown into that. And Von Miller also has kind of grown into a superstar in the NFL and is getting a lot more recognition. But I think he's kind of set his goal in that he wants to be one of the leading sackers of all time. I certainly believe he can do that. The only thing that Von Miller really hasn't done at this point in his career is win the Defensive Player of the Year. And I would love to see if he could do that in 2019. Entering the top 10, the best running back, in my opinion, in the NFL after just one season is the New York Giants' Saquon Barkley. What he was able to do as a rookie is something that I haven't really seen since Adrian Peterson. Saquon Barkley led the NFL in yards from scrimmage in his first season, which is incredible, behind an offensive line that a lot of people think is not very good, because a lot of people say that that's why Eli sucks, is because the offensive line sucks. Well, if that's the case, well, Saquon's running behind that same offensive line and he's dominating. And he's an excellent receiver right away. That transferred to the NFL, better than just about anything in his game. He has incredible contact balance, and to me, his closest comparison is like a mix between LT and Barry Sanders. There's a reason why he made that tribute highlight video to Barry Sanders, because they play the same way. He has the jump cuts, he has the agility side to side, he has the burst down the field to create big plays better than any running back in the NFL, and he's a one-man wrecking crew for the Giants offense going forward. It'll be interesting to see how he performs without Odell there to take away some of the coverage, and there's going to be some loaded boxes. But if there's any running back in football that can do it, it's Saquon. At number 9 on the top 100, Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. Saints fans, I know that you're mad at me that I've kind of been talking down on the Saints over the course of this offseason, but for Drew Brees, I really respect him. He's playing at such a high level with longevity that's only rivaled by Tom Brady. And Drew Brees is so smart. He's so accurate. He is one of the most intelligent quarterbacks of all time. He runs one of the most difficult offenses to operate in NFL history. And we've seen that no matter the targets around him, who the running back is, or the offensive line, Drew Brees can get it done within Sean Payton's offense. He had an excellent season last year, being one of the MVP candidates last season, only below Patrick Mahomes. And Drew Brees continues to play at a high level. I understand it kind of fell off at the end of last season, but I think his intelligence level, his work ethic will not allow Drew Brees to be a bad quarterback at any point in time. He's so good and kind of gets a little bit underrated in terms of his athletic ability and ability to move around the pocket. Drew Brees is fearless, a great leader, and one of the best quarterbacks still in football. At number 8, the second best receiver in the league, in my opinion, that is DeAndre Hopkins. What separates DeAndre Hopkins from a lot of receivers in the NFL is his ability to go up and get it, his ability to catch contested catches, and really, he has the best hands in football. Anywhere, anytime, that's what DeAndre Hopkins can do, and he gets peppered with targets. Really, Will Fuller's been injured a lot, Kiki Kote's been injured a lot, and there's no one else to throw the football to. Deshaun Watson forces it to him, and he comes up with big play after big play after big play. Now, where I think DeAndre Hopkins is not excellent is his deep speed, but he kind of just can do it anyways, because you can just toss it up to him and he can catch it no matter if he's in double coverage, single coverage with one of the best corners in the game, triple coverage, it doesn't matter. DeAndre Hopkins will go up and get it if it's a low pass, a high pass. He's so good. He's a really good receiver in terms of catching on the sidelines, catching in the end zone, red zone targets. He's amazing there as well. He really doesn't have many weaknesses to his game. He's also incredibly physical and can take on some of the bigger press corners in the league because he's kind of a bigger, taller guy, but is excellent off the line, and he can create separation with his body as well. So DeAndre Hopkins, incredible body control, one of the best receivers in the NFL, and is quiet, not a diva, but he gets it done. At number 7, the best receiver in football, Julio Jones. I did mention where one area is a weakness for DeAndre Hopkins is a strength for Julio Jones. I don't think DeAndre Hopkins has the deep speed that Julio Jones has. Julio Jones has separation speed down the field and is more of a threat to go 60 yards than DeAndre Hopkins. That's the tiny separation between these two receivers. Julio is incredible in every area of the game. He does not have a single weakness. His contested catches are up there with the best. His route running is up there with the best, especially for a guy his size with He's kind of a bulkier receiver. Like, he's in the mold of a Megatron, but he's still incredible in terms of his route running. He's very difficult to press because he's so powerful and he's so strong off the line. And again, another guy that doesn't talk a lot, another guy that doesn't demand attention. The only thing that demands attention from Julio Jones is his game. At number 6 on the top 100, Captain Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck, to me, is one of the top 3 quarterbacks entering the 2019 NFL season, and it's pretty incredible what he was able to do coming back from the injury. A lot of people question whether Andrew Luck would ever play again, and if he did, what level of play would we get from Andrew Luck? Well, he answered those questions. He was one of the top MVP candidates. He was second in the NFL on touchdowns with 39, and he dominated, allowed the Colts to come back to the playoffs, even in a division where the Colts weren't expected to do much before the season. They were expected to, at best, be third in the division, possibly last in the division, and they go in and they win it with a team in Jacksonville that went to the AFC Championship game, the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson, and even the Titans, a team that made the playoffs the year before. And Andrew Luck entered the playoffs, beat the Texans, who won the division, and then just had an excellent season. Andrew Luck is a special player from the standpoint of he's a very smart player, but he kind of is like a more athletic Ben Roethlisberger to me. He can get outside the pocket, and he's mobile enough to throw on the run or scramble if you need him to at times. He's very tough inside the pocket and will make a throw. But there's also an area of the game where Andrew Luck is really good, and that's when facing pressure, and he's fearless under pressure. Like, he'll make an incredible on-point throw down the field to no matter who the receiver is. And that's another thing about Andrew Luck. He hasn't had much support outside of T.Y. Hilton at tight end or at wide receiver. He hasn't ever had a running game outside of last season, and I'm excited to see how Frank Reich evolves this offense. And again, first year in an offense. Everything I'm talking about is just insane that Andrew Luck was able to come back from injury in the first year of an offense under a new head coach with not great weapons and have the season he did. He's just such an incredible player, a baller, and the true captain of the Indianapolis Colts. At number 5, the biggest beast in the entire NFL, Fletcher Cox of the Philadelphia Eagles. I have him ranked as the second best interior defensive lineman and the third best defensive player in the NFL. Fletcher Cox dominates as a pass rusher. He dominates as a run stuffer. He might be the best run defender in the entire NFL, which just allows the Eagles to do so much within Schwartz's defense. But also, he was second in the NFL where he elevated his game was as a pass rusher. Second in the NFL in pressure rate this past season, only behind Aaron Donald. And he was actually pretty close, which is crazy. Fletcher Cox is a big man, but he makes more plays where they're just not on the stat sheet than anybody else in the NFL. He opens up more players around him to do their job better, like Brandon Graham or Derek Barnett or Chris Long from a season ago. He allows everyone on the defensive line to be better when he's at his peak of play. And even playing through an injury against the Saints, he still dominated. Even if he's hobbling on one leg, he'll still dominate. He is a man among boys and one of the true dominant defensive players in all of football. At number 4 on the top 100, I have Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, and in my opinion, the greatest football player of all time. But that does not mean that you're the best football player right now, Tom. I'm sorry. I have to give that to somebody else this year. Tom Brady, to me, was the best quarterback entering this season. I do feel like he did decline slightly, especially in terms of his statistics during the regular season. But when it came to the playoffs, he turned it on once again and showed us who the greatest is. And he was clutch enough to make the plays against the Chargers, where he had the best game of his season, in my opinion. Turned it on against the Chiefs, and they really relied on him more than people think in that game. And he went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in Patrick Mahomes' home building and was still able to outduel him. And then in the Super Bowl, yes, he didn't have the greatest game. The Rams defense played very well. But despite the lack of weapons around him, was still able to uplift this offense and make the plays when needed, connecting with Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman to gain his 6th Super Bowl victory. Tom Brady is simply a winner. He'll do anything you need to get that victory at the end of the day. To me, he hasn't lost much in terms of his throw power, in terms of his arm strength. He's still as accurate as ever. He's still a great decision maker, which he was very unfortunate on a lot of his interceptions this year. A lot of them were tipped because his lack of wide receivers this year. And I think that's something that not a lot of people have discussed for Tom Brady going into this season, is he'll actually have probably better receivers this year. Last year, Chris Hogan was pretty bad. And then looking outside of that, Philip Dorsett was his number 2 option. Julian Edelman was suspended for 4 games. There was a lot of uncertainty. And of course, Rob Gronkowski declined. So Brady had lackluster weapons around him, but just like in Tom Brady fashion, was able to elevate his teammates and get the best out of them. And they won the Super Bowl again. At number 3 on the top 100, I have Khalil Mack, one of the most dominant players in the NFL. Khalil Mack, he showed you how good he is. When a player can go having no training camp, start week number 1 on a new team, in a new system, in a new scheme defensively, and dominate the way he did against the Green Bay Packers, against Aaron Rodgers of all quarterbacks, that is insane. Khalil Mack is incredible, and he was hobbled for a lot of that season. He was out of shape kind of at the end of the year. I think he just ran out of gas because he didn't have the training camp. He didn't have the time to train. He wasn't at full speed entering the season, but he still dominated. He was still the defensive player of the year right there with Aaron Donald for many weeks, and Aaron Donald just kind of ran away with it. But Khalil Mack could certainly win the defensive player of the year this year. He was a huge part of the best defense in the NFL, and if he gets that full offseason, sky's the limit inside the Bears defense for Khalil Mack. At number 2 on the top 100, I have Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL entering the 2019 season. What Patrick Mahomes was able to do in 2018, throwing 50 touchdowns, throwing over 5,000 yards, carrying his football team to victories and getting them to the AFC Championship game and getting them to such a state where they were in overtime against the Super Bowl champion, the New England Patriots, is insane. Patrick Mahomes with virtually no defense, his defense was horrible. They couldn't stop anybody. Yet Patrick Mahomes, play after play, series after series, was incredible. The throws he made last season, the no-look pass, the arm angles around the offensive lineman, perfectly running from one sideline, throwing to the opposite sideline. Patrick Mahomes did things at the quarterback position that we have rarely or never seen before, and that's why he is the best quarterback in football going into 2019, the MVP of football going into 2019, and he has high expectations to possibly repeat that in 2019. At number 1, the best player in football right now has to be the most dominant at his position, and that is Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald with 20.5 sacks as a defensive tackle. That is absolutely unheard of. He led the NFL in sacks. He was the defensive player of the year, the most destructive player. And when it comes to a defensive player that can wreck an entire game plan, the whole game plan against the LA Rams is to shut down Aaron Donald. That's from the words of Aaron Rodgers himself. Aaron Donald is that good, and I don't even think people understand how good he is. He is doing something at his position that we've never seen before. He is dominating at his position as a pass rusher in a way we've never seen, and he's changing the NFL from producing interior defensive linemen who can pass rush, from paying guards more money so that they can block guys like Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is a difference maker and is changing the NFL the same way Patrick Mahomes is. That's why these top two are the top 2, and that's why Aaron Donald is number 1. Thanks for watching my top 100. If you enjoyed, spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Do you love my list? Do you hate my list? Do you agree with my number 1 player, Aaron Donald? Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll see you next video. Peace out.